Hi, you're listening to WHCR 90.3FM.
I found out on my way to Harlem.
Good evening. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources to hopefully improve your life. I'm Stu Reed, and we're waiting for our co-host Lena Marvin to call in, and in the meantime, we've got a special guest in the studio. He's an on-air personality, a video broadcaster, an audio podcaster from the Dowsa Network, and a host of the Hangover Takeover show, Mr. Siad Reed, a.k.a. the Standby Gypsy. Welcome, Siad.
Hey, how you doing, Stu?
I'm good. We're here. Siad is a younger person. You guys have heard me talk about what an old-timer I am, going back to the old days of early technology. And I wanted to have a conversation today with Siad, and hopefully Lena will be calling in as well, another millennial, to talk about their perspective on some of the stuff that's going on in the technosphere. And I guess the first thing I wanted to kick around a little bit was to talk about privacy. I know there was a big story recently about Facebook and the fact that they were or have let in a lot of the big tech companies, have all kinds of information that they swore to their customers and to Congress that would be kept secret. And, Siad, I know you were an early user and proponent of Facebook back before I kind of even knew what it was. And what's your take on where they are now, and what's your feeling about them?
Well, first off, I just, again, want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about some of this stuff. It's interesting because, yes, as you alluded to earlier, I do host an online video podcast called The Hangover Takeover. And we actually stream live via our Facebook page. So
okay.
Facebook is a big part of how we get our show out initially to our listeners, and then they can consume it in audio podcast form. I'm a little split personally.
Mm-hmm.
I use Facebook personally, mostly for my media stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At one point when I first started using it, I actually had two pages, one under Siad Reed and then another one under the persona of the Standby Gypsy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started to realize, I was literally running two personalities, and I thought it was just too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to let go of my real world person and just do it for entertainment purposes, mm-hmm. which I think is what the internet should be used for primarily, especially when it comes to social media and sharing your information. Mm-hmm. You should never get too personal. So for me, it was a kind of a virtual wall to kind of protect myself from not even divulging too much or anything
mm-hmm.
like that. So all I have to say is that I think, Facebook initially had great intentions, it being starting out, in college and a way for folks to network and catch up with friends that they haven't seen in a while, post-graduation, so on and so forth. And I do, in a general sense, like the way it has evolved. But as we're learning some of the behind the scenes and behind the curtain, so to speak, of what the goings-ons are with the business dealings of people's public information sensitivity of it, it's shocking. It's startling. You kind of hope, and I think we all hope that, the internet will kind of stay pure for a while, but, or certain arenas, even walled gardens would be pure, to certain, business practices, but clearly it's not, and it's the ruthlessness of it is at its highest order.
Yeah.
So it's unnerving. What I talk about on my show, is entertainment based. So it's kind of, on the lighter side of things. I have friends mm-hmm. that are, more political with what they say on both sides of the spectrum, left and right. And they've either left Facebook altogether, choosing other platforms to voice their opinions.
Is that because of privacy issues that they've left, or?
A little bit of both. I mean, privacy issues, and also Facebook has banned certain material that they deemed isn't suitable mm-hmm. for Facebook. And I don't mean, I don't mean anything extreme, mm-hmm. but just strong opinions that might be against Facebook's internal political leanings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So people, it's kind of hypocritical for it to be a free speech platform, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to remind some of those people that it's still a private company, so they can still do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you voluntarily give up all your data when you sign up.
You do, but there is a general, I think, a general agreement, gentleman's agreement, so to speak, between the user and the platform, whether it be Facebook or whatever, that when you click on certain buttons and it tells you that your private information is not being shared with the world and being sold and so on and so forth, that it's not.
Yeah, I think that's even more than a gentleman's agreement. That sounds like a legal agreement.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely, and I guess
it's more than just a handshake.
It's more than just a handshake. It's supposed to be a binding agreement when you click on that button. And I think that, it's the trust is gone.
Right.
The trust is gone. I think, they have over 2 billion users and people are so addicted to it at this point that, Facebook kind of won in the sense of everyone using it. But I do have hope for the internet because it is this place where if someone comes up with something new, better, and fresher, people will flood to it quicker than fire to gasoline. Mm-hmm. So, Facebook is as much of a behemoth and ubiquitous as it is right now. I could totally see, a newer platform eventually coming to the forefront, and especially younger generations. The millennials and kids that are in elementary school now, junior high school and high school. I could totally see them. A lot of them aren't even on Facebook. They're on Instagram, they're on Twitter. Or they're on this app that I know we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But, a lot of them are really obviously on the pulse of these kind of smaller video media apps that aren't about, politics and about sharing ideas. People just want to show their video and pictures.
Hang on one second, Scott. We're joined by our co-host, Lena Marvin. Hey, Lena.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. We're sitting here with Siad Reed, a.k.a. the Standby Gypsy. And we've been talking just the last few minutes about Facebook. I mentioned at the top of the show that Siad, who also happens to be my son, full disclosure, he's the one that kind of got me involved in social media going back probably, I don't know how many years now, probably close to a decade. But in any event, he's not as enamored of the platform now as maybe he once was, as so many of us have kind of soured. And go ahead, pick up on your conversation, see about what you were saying.
Well, it's just that I could see a transition. I could see the bad press and all this information coming out about Facebook and even other companies like them, the Amazons and so on and so forth. I could see there being a big backlash socially. Maybe 3, 5, maybe as much as 10 years, but I could see well within 10 years where. There's a newer platform, a cleaner platform people can trust. That literally, I could see that as the branding of some new platform that comes out. This is the social media platform you can trust that legitimately because of, newer technology with security agreements with the user, so on and so forth, that it comes out that, people that are under, 30, under 25, under 15 years of age are going to use 3-5 years from now. And they'll use that. If even the dynamic of having a massive, social media platform where everyone goes. I'm not even convinced that concept will even survive itself. I think it'll be much more to kind of bring it back to like Bell Atlantic and all the monopolies and stuff like it being broken up. Being much smaller apps and much smaller social media or more niche social media platforms as opposed to this one big monster that's just collecting all of our information.
What do you think about that, Lena? Do you think that's possible or even likely? Go the way of MySpace?
I'm hopeful for federated social media, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's this kind of push with things like Mastodon, which is kind of it's a bit like Twitter, but anyone can host the servers if they know how to host a server, and it's an interesting. There's some interesting pushes. I'm inclined to agree with that analysis. I'm hopeful for federated ones, though.
When you say federated, you mean broken up into individual fiefdoms?
Yeah, it's different servers that can all talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the stories that kind of prompted me to, even bring this up, not that we needed any story because it's so ubiquitous, i.e. Facebook, is the fact that, New York Times last week ran a story about how Facebook just caved into the tech giants, to Yahoo and Amazon and Google, and were just giving up all kinds of information that they had said in writing to their customers and end users that they would not share. And in fact, they've been sharing it big time, and that's, I don't know that there are going to be any legal repercussions. I mean, they're such a behemoth, as we all know. I don't know that there is any legal recourse, but it's certainly eye-popping to see that they have really abrogated their agreement with their customers in a big way. Do you have any
hopefully the one of the repercussions is the European Union's Privacy Act that has really been changing a lot of things. I'm kind of hoping that that's part of what will happen. Is countries can just choose to block Facebook if they don't think they're playing by the rules.
That would be interesting. What Lena's referring to is just this past summer, the European Union passed a Data Privacy Protection Act that all, entities that are on the Internet that do business with the European Union folks, end users, have to abide by. And it has to do with the collection of personal data and distribution of personal data. And I guess it's pretty stringent. Would you say, Lena, how would you characterize their controls?
It's not that stringent. I mean, it's sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's curious stuff. It's the General Data Protection Regulation. Whenever you may have noticed recently an uptick in the number of sites you're looking at that say, you're looking at cookies. There are cookies here.
Yes.
Acknowledge that there are cookies. Okay. That is the result of the GDPR.
GDPR, General Data Protection Requirement, I guess?
Regulation,
okay. GDPR.
Yeah.
I have noticed, though, that cookie notice over the last couple of months or so. I've noticed that on a bunch of sites. That's new. Now, do you have an option when you see that notice to not abide by, to say, okay, I don't want those cookies, and what happens then?
Well, I think you don't get to use that website.
Oh, okay.
If you're not opting in for at least that level of communication with the site, then the notice will just keep being there, and I don't think the cookies will be distributed until you say okay. But cookies are kind of this weird technology where a website tries to help the browser remember what you are looking at, is at least a little part of it. That is not technically accurate, but regardless.
It's close enough for us novices. So I mean, we talked about, Facebook may be broken up. CI raised the specter of it being possibly regulated, broken up as the AT&T was back in 1984, when you millennial guys weren't around. But I remember well, there was one phone company for the entire country, referred to affectionately as Ma Bell. And they had a monopoly across the entire country, even though there were little teeny small independent phone companies in some rural, very small communities. But for the most part, AT&T was the entire country. And 1984, Judge Green came in, antitrust lawsuit, and broke them up into 8 what were called baby bells at the time, regional phone companies across the country, from Bell Atlantic to NYNEX to Southwestern Bell to Ameritech up in the Great Lakes, to Bell South down in the South. And supposedly that was going to ameliorate the problem of no competition in the phone business. Well, you fast forward about 30 years, and what has happened is there's been a reconsolidation of all the baby bells. And now there are 2 giant monoliths that control basically all the phone traffic as well as the internet traffic, at least on the Bell side, that being AT&T and Verizon. AT&T having, not totally, but basically west of the Mississippi, Verizon being east of the Mississippi with some notable exceptions. So don't quote, that's not literal. But other than those 2 guys, the other thing that has risen in the meantime is the cable companies. And they have gone from about the same time period when there were dozens and dozens. I remember when you would see the list of the top 20 or top 30 cable companies. They have consolidated, and now you have about 4 or 5 cable companies that control most of the country. So they, too, control the delivery of content as well as telephone and internet communication. So you've got about maybe 6 or 7 giant multi-billion-dollar, 10, 20, $100 million, $100 billion companies controlling the infrastructure and the communications in this country. And I haven't. Dave's not on the call. Dave could tell us a little bit about what's happening in Washington with antitrust, but I don't see any noise being made about antitrust on that side of things. So I don't see it happening with Facebook either.
Well, back to what I was just saying. I agree with you. I don't think the political will is there. I don't think the money's there. I mean, every time something comes out about Facebook, it seems horrifying, and that it kind of should be shut down, so to speak. If it was a company selling widgets or whatever, they would shut it down immediately. People would be horrified by it. But because of Facebook's influence and addictive quality and its impression, its entanglement in society right now, it's almost impossible to imagine that the government or, government agencies, FTC, so on and so forth, would really come in there and do something to shake it up. That's why I feel that it would have to be a social trend. I mean, people would have to be tired of the concept of, getting their information just being thrown around out there the way it is. There has to be, we're all reactionary. Most humans are reactionary. We're very, very rarely are we proactive. So, I mean, sadly enough, it would have to take such a big data breach or some type of, attack on American folks, with their information where it was specifically through Facebook, where it was, their hands were in the cookie jar, so to speak. That people were like, oh, we're done with Facebook, and then there would have to eventually become this ecosystem of smaller networks, like Lena was saying with the Mastodon and so on and so forth. I could see where, even that needs to take some time and evolution where people are comfortable enough with the idea of going to these other sites. I mean, there has to be a weaning off period of Facebook, so to speak, because we're all so, hooked to that to that app and to that service. Even as much as we grumble about it, everyone hates it and uses it. I've never, you only can compare that to something much more devious. So it would take a real social action to happen. And again,
I don't think it'll be data. I don't think there's anything that can happen with people's data at this point that would have them stop using Facebook. I think the answer would have to be something that's better than Facebook.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Lena.
And how if you can imagine what that is, Lena, what would it do or how would it operate? Do you have any visions or any insight into what that might be?
Well, one of the things people really miss is the ability to see chronological order of what people are saying online. Like that has been totally lost, both on Twitter and on Facebook. But the idea that you could catch up on what someone was saying, but also be able to say, I don't really want to see everything somebody is saying. So some way to both have a chronological order that is also somewhat filtered. Like, I wonder what the role of the algorithmic engagement, how that's going to change things.
What do you mean by that? What's the algorithmic engagement?
So Facebook doesn't give me the chronological order of posts. It tries to show me the cool posts, but its understanding of cool is not the same as my understanding of cool. But that algorithm, that idea that they can figure out what you want to be looking at, is somewhat true. And I think that technology, getting better, being easier to engage with, being more customizable, like kind of creating your own filter bubble as opposed to enduring your own filter bubble.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it goes to, people want more control of what they see. They don't want to be told, or again, I think, we've all, some of us experience it, and Lena, I want to know if you've experienced this, where you've said something and then it appears on your timeline. You talked about a product and then it appears on your timeline. I mean, I joked and posted this, ironically enough, on my Facebook that I was sneezing and coughing, and all of a sudden I started seeing ads on my timelines about cough medicine. And it's creepy, and it's obviously being accepted by a lot of us that, our devices are listening to us for that marketing purpose. And I would like to see, some of the ideas that you're talking about the algorithmic changes of us controlling the filters of what we see genuinely and not just,
Well, the difficulty is the role of convenience in modern life. I don't actually want to have to curate my own algorithm because I know I'd be lying to myself. I'd be saying, I want to see really intellectual stuff. I don't. I want to see kittens. And the reason why you're going to see medical stuff of the cold variety, I don't think it's because you said something. I think it's because your friend network, who they know are your friends, have started doing that search, and they know you're sick.
That's true. It could be true.
Okay.
I don't know what the exact algorithm is, but, again, just that sense of invasion of personal space. Like you said, there's no data breach. I mean, people have been, stealing our information, through the Internet for decades at this point, and like you said, it hasn't moved the needle. But socially, when you really feel the creep value, so to speak, of your devices listening to you and then immediately telling you that you should have, whatever medicine.com, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't move the needle. Maybe it does. I don't know.
What would make more sense is if it actually just popped up and said, 5 of your friends are sick. We don't know if you're doing okay. Here's your thing. Like, if it just gave you a little bit more of the peek behind the curtain of how it knows things, it could be a lot less creepy. But people will get used to it.
So I'm interested, just among both you guys are under 40. Don't mind saying your ages. I'm well over that. And are your friends, are your peers reacting to some of this stuff coming out about Facebook? What's their? Are you getting any reaction from them?
I have friends who left Facebook.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, same. I have friends that have left Facebook. It really depends on what people are using it for. For myself, if I did not use it for media, I probably wouldn't be on Facebook at all. I've said that to a lot of my friends. But some people take the other road of what I'm doing is I'm not doing I'm just watching cat videos, or I'm just posting about the basics of my life. I don't really. They don't care if people are watching or listening or taking their information. And again, like back to Lena was saying, it's such a disconnected thing when people say your information is being, stolen or used or traded, that people are like, I got to go home and go feed my kids. I'm not really worried about that. So people aren't really thinking about that.
I got the wonderful experience of watching my dad on Facebook. So he's an older fella, and he's kind of getting used to the interface. And he was looking at friend requests, and then there were suggestions of people you might know. And many of them will say, these are your mutual friends. And I was able to look at it and see, who did they think of my friends would be his friends? And try and figure out algorithmically, why are they guessing these people? And he had someone who popped up as a recommended friend who had nothing listed, no mutuals, very little information. And I said, who's that? And he went, oh, that's the mother of someone you went to school with. And I'm like, wow. How, preschool, how do they know that she's connected if they have no mutual friends?
Wow.
Yeah, that's scary. That's really creepy.
The answer is graphs, network graphs.
You get that one right over my head, Lena.
They just make graphs of people. So you're a node, you're connected to other nodes. The shape of the nodes as they all connect is how they figure out mutuals. If you have someone the shapes look very similar, they have mutuals, but not with each other.
Okay.
Then that name might just pop up.
Interesting.
Right, 3 degrees of separation, but you have that one connection. It might be, kind of far out there, but it's still a vague connection.
It's not far out there. That's the thing. He did know this person. The trick is they don't share a friend, but they have enough friends who share friends.
Gotcha.
So it's not totally random, but it means that Facebook will occasionally suggest that people become friends with the same people who have the same therapist. No one should have that information. That should be HIPAA protected.
Right.
Yeah, they were saying that in one of the articles we were reading that, people that, had committed crimes, that were now out and had Facebook were being suggested as friends to their victims.
Yep.
I mean, just like you said, it's an algorithm. It doesn't know the actual relationship. It just knows nodes and algorithms.
Wow. So. Well, now, that brings up an interesting connection. One of the other stories that I was kind of looking at that's somewhat related is about security and privacy. I was just reading something. Lena, you're probably an old hand at this because I know you're a privacy security aficionado. But the whole thing about two-step authentication.
I love it.
Yeah. Break that down for us. What is two-step authentication?
So when I put in a password, I also open up an app on my phone, and it gives me a auto-generated code, and then I also put in that code. And it's complicated math that means that if somebody doesn't have my phone, they can't log into my Facebook. And I love it. I love it, and I love LastPass. LastPass is a software management, is a password management, and it's really good. Have you run into it?
No, are you familiar with this yet?
No, I have not. I'm learning a lot more about two-step authentication. I've had it a few times when I've had to log into my Facebook from another computer, and they'll ask me to verify with the two-step authentication. And for me, I'm unfortunately one of those people that kind of feel, I don't feel like I'm going to get my account hacked. I'm one of those naive people, and I find the two-step authentication sometimes of a hassle. So I'll ignore it. But now, just by the nature of having this conversation, and now I feel like I'm going to have to use it going forward.
Well, it's not that hard. Part of the trick is if you get the right one, you can just hit OK on your phone as opposed to actually putting the number in.
Okay.
Because the second step is your phone being able to reach out to that server.
So now
and that's less painful. The big thing about our current ecosystem of privacy is everything is convenience versus security.
Right.
Agreed.
That's the trade-off.
And that's why I like LastPass, because it can generate, I have passwords that I don't know. LastPass knows my passwords. I don't know my passwords. LastPass puts my passwords in. But I trust LastPass to keep a handle on all of it. And so everything has different passwords, but I'm using this tool to connect to things.
Okay, now this is Last, L-A-S-T, pass?
There's other things. LastPass is a commercial service. It's a freemium, so you can do these things for free, or you can pay to do more things. There's also KeyPass, which is a open source password manager. But I just hate keeping track of passwords. And when my dad got in ill health, I needed to be able to keep track of all of his passwords and get into my mom's passwords. And I was just like, wow, I can't do this. I can't keep track of all of this. So that's when I started using LastPass, and I use that in particular with two-step authentication because that's all of my passwords.
So let me just see if I understand it. All of your passwords are located on a LastPass server somewhere, and in order to access it, you have to go through a two-step process to retrieve your password from LastPass.
Yes, they're encrypted. So they also can generate passwords. So if somebody says we need a 22-character long uppercase, lowercase, but no numbers, I can be like, okay, and I'll have it generate that password and save it. And I have it as an app on my smartphone, and I have it as a browser add-on on my computer. And it's wonderful. It means I can go to any website, and it'll pop up and be like, oh, is this your login? And it was able to harvest all of the logins that I had saved that my parents had saved on Chrome, because Chrome or Firefox will save passwords, so you don't have to.
Right.
And LastPass can take over from them, but they're much better encrypted.
Wow. Now, this is really resonating with me. Recently, I keep a written file in Word of my passwords, and every now and then I print it out just in case my computer gets locked up or something. And I looked at it the other day, and there were 17 pages of passwords. I've got all these websites that I manage and, different kinds of accounts and blah, blah, blah. 17 pages. That's ridiculous.
I've had to print out is my two-step authentication codes in case I can't have my phone.
That was my next question. What, you lose your phone? Your phone drops in a bucket of water. What happens?
I use a tool to get them all back, but I have to keep those codes somewhere safe.
Written down?
Yeah, I print it out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That sounds like something that we all need. LastPass.
Yeah, or KeyPass or XPass. There's different varieties. I personally love LastPass, and I've had real, hacker cybersecurity people be like, yeah, this is good. And I'm like, okay, well, if you say so, then I believe you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lena, I have a question to you. What do you think the kind of race with hackers and folks that are out there proactively building security systems, more specifically like apps like that for commercial use, how far ahead is one over the other? Are they about equal? Is it a battle? Like where do you see that fight?
So it's not a battle. It's not a fight. There are no winners and losers. Our infrastructure is completely confused. No one knows what they're doing.
It's good to know.
Sometimes some people get more information than they should have. Sometimes people share information they shouldn't. And there's really no knowing. What's important is looking at your own life and knowing what do I do if this or that information were to get out. So after the Equifax hack, I froze all of my credit. That is deeply inconvenient.
When you say froze, what's that, Lena?
I contacted my various credit bureaus, the Equifax and Experian and whoever, and I said, if anyone asks for a loan in my name, you say no until I give you this code.
Okay.
And it's what actions are you willing to do to protect your data? On a much easier thing, you can just watch your credit score, see if it changes, see if somebody takes a loan out, and know that you can fight credit bureaus. So, that's one step. The other one is something like privacy.com, which is a faux, it makes credit cards that are one-use credit cards or one-service credit cards, but it makes it out of a debit service. So I understand their business model. They're taking I'm sorry, I'm losing track of words. They take the merchant fee from credit cards and in change give you a credit number.
And so how does that work? I know you lost me.
Oh, I have a one-time use credit card.
Oh, okay. So you have the
it's
card.
It's like a debit card, but it's a
only,
card that can only be used once or only with Netflix and has a
okay,
amount
so it's like
limit
it's disposable.
If you throw away.
Yeah.
It's almost like burner cell phones.
Yeah, right. A burner credit card.
Right, a burner credit card, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, we're going to take a brief break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about some of the new applications that are out there, particularly for you millennial folks, because us old-timers don't know anything about it. One of the ones that I was looking at is something called TikTok, and I'm sure there are many others. So stay tuned. You're listening to Community and Technology with Stu, Lena, and Siad. Be right back.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Okay, we're back. Community and Technology with Lena, Stu, and our special guest, Siad, a.k.a. the Standby Gypsy. We were talking about security and privacy, and before we switch over, I did get a phone call, Lena, and someone wanted me to ask you about Dashlane or Dashline. Are you familiar with that service?
I feel like I've run into
I think
it,
it's a password protection or storage service. You don't know about it?
Oh, it's a password manager. Yeah,
yes.
Dashlane. It's another secure digital wallet. I haven't run into that one, but basically, if no one tells me, if no hackers tell me this is what you should use, then I hesitate on it. So I haven't heard about Dashlane, but it is another password manager.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's something that we highly recommend to our listeners out there. Password managers, because we all have so many of them, and they are so easily hacked that we need a way to control it and to secure our sites, secure our money, secure our information.
Well, the question when you think about it is what information, if it gets out there, what will it do, and what can I do in response? So the recommendation, never take nudes, never take a nude photo of yourself. Don't let anybody else take it, because what will you do? I recommend just being shameless. Just don't let it bother you. Don't work with children. There's lots of options. But the notion of what do you do if this gets out? What does this look like?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if we can just segue, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the new apps that are out there. One just kind of bubbled up in somewhere on my information sources. Something called TikTok, which is something for teens, and apparently it's got parents scrambling around trying to figure out what's going on. Are either of you guys familiar with TikTok?
Yeah, mostly through my Instagram feed. Instagram has been very, very good and annoying with putting ads, sponsored ads on one's timeline, depending on things that they've liked, and again the algorithms that we've created for ourselves. So yeah, TikTok, me being in media, podcasting, so on and so forth, it has definitely been on my timeline. It comes off very cool. They'll have like a little video, 15-second video clip of somebody doing some incredible video edit that you would think that, you would need a real studio, real camera, real editing equipment for. And basically it's suggesting that you could do it with this app. So eventually, finally, actually, it's funny enough that we're talking about that. I just actually downloaded just to test it out yesterday, 2 days ago. And of course, you can't do any of the things that are in the 15-second clip on this video. Either that or you have to probably, give them a bunch of money or so on and so forth. But what I did find very interesting was that when I first opened the app, to notice that it has a community, and it's very much like Vine, which came out in, I think, 2010 before Twitter bought it and got rid of it. But it's an ability to create videos, but not only that, create it and share it inside this community on TikTok. And I thought it was very ingenious taking, video editing and picture editing apps and then creating a legitimate community around it and finding a way to get people, especially young folks, addicted to it. So it's very creative. It's very ingenious. So I'm interested to see how it will evolve and other apps that are like it and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Lainey?
It's from China.
Yeah, it is from China.
It's neat.
From China.
Yeah. I've never used it. I've definitely seen that it's been a growing popularity thing. I know it first came out for the iPhone and then Android, and but it's been around for a couple of years, and nope.
So why are parents so upset? It's apparently young kids are using it and they're a little concerned. What's going on with that? Anybody know?
Well, from what I read and what I gather, it's very easy. Again, the community aspect of it. So kids can make. Vine was popular because it had this kind of the format of it is you can make videos at 6 seconds at a time. Mm-hmm. So with again, things going faster and faster and folks' attention deficit being shortened and people considering, what's quality content. It's getting, that time frame is getting smaller and smaller. So it's for people that are under, 25, 6 seconds of something funny is quality. So Vine just exploded in 2010. And plus you could stack these 6 second clips together to make longer form videos.
Okay.
But it created these automatic cuts in your video, 6 second cuts. So you can make some really funny and interesting content with it. So TikTok kind of does the same thing. I don't know if there's a time limit as far as how long the videos are, but it's quick, consumable content. You don't have to sit there and read anything. You don't have to sit there and digest or try to figure out what this picture means. You don't have to read a meme. It's video. It's instantaneous, trying to figure out what someone. So whether it's funny or disgusting or inappropriate, you can do it. Now the problem with it is when you go on your app store to go get it, there's basically no, I think it's 12 and under. It's promoted as something that kids can use. There's no regulation saying that it's suggested that it should be 18 and over, 16 and over. I think it's 12 and over. So, kids are on it. It's very attractive to use, and I think it's very easy to use. And kids are combined. The other thing, because it was just recently bought by Musical.ly, which is a music app where you can, use your phone, do a selfie video, and it'll put music in the background, and you can sing words along to it. You can lip sync. So, and it does other video effects to it, so it's very cool. So Musical.ly just bought it, and that's why it exploded in the U.S. most recently. So now, a 10-year-old girl, a lot of these music apps, it's more so. I think they said 30% in London, 36% of girls under 14 are using TikTok. Young girls are more inclined to do the, let me sing, this sexy song, that's on the radio, that's a hit right now, and sing it on this app. But then you're being followed by the entire world, and people can comment, and that's when the lewdness comes out. So it's giving young people an opportunity to video record themselves, document themselves on the internet, singing, adult songs, esque songs, and it's giving also at the same time a platform for people to reach out, communicate, and
Is it video and audio, or is it just audio?
No, it's video.
It's video. Okay.
It's video and audio. It's a video recording app that you can edit, make these cool videos, integrate music. I'm assuming you probably can upload music from your own phone, music because a lot of these apps are now building relationships with music labels. So when you, like Instagram, for example, they have relationships. So now you can make a video where you can put whatever top 100 song that's on the radio in the background and not have to worry about copywritten material, because that's the other thing that is an issue with Facebook and even YouTube and so on and so forth. If you put music on there that you don't own the rights to, they can take it down, and their bots are pretty quick about that. So if it's content that you love and cherish or whatever, it might be gone the next day or within the next hour. So TikTok can again put in music, commercial music in there. You don't have to worry about rights or paying royalties or anything like that. So it makes the content more attractive. So now, that 12-year-old girl can sing the latest Rihanna song or whatever, be singing in her mind, oh, I'm just singing in, my pajamas. But, the 45-year-old in, wherever in the world, it makes for a really potentially for a bad internet ecosystem. It's allowing a lot too soon. So, the biggest thing that I read from the article was that, there's no age limit. Of course, people can lie about how old they are on the internet. People do it all the time if they really want the app. But, it's a recipe for some funky stuff to happen. That's how I feel.
So, Lena, what's the most exciting, interesting app that you ran across in 2018, or is there one?
I've really enjoyed Signal for encrypted communication and chat. I like that I have an app for it on my computer, so I can send texts from my phone or from my computer. It's just nice, and it's encrypted, so it's the joint between privacy and convenience.
And Signal is the app, Signal? Is it free?
Yeah. Yeah, the trick is you have to convince other people to use it. You
your receiver.
Text messages from it, but it's useless. But it's neat to look at it because it'll kind of give you a heads up as to who's in the know about security and digital security.
So do you have a big user base that you communicate with that has that?
Yes, I got a lot of my friends to start using it, and some of them started using it anyway. And when I was using it during the Obama administration, but what I like about 2018 is Trump inspired a lot of my friends to get an encrypted chat thing. I don't know why.
Can't imagine why.
So interesting. It's so interesting. But that goes back to what I was saying about Facebook. I mean, people socially are little by little changing how they are used. They are more willing to jump the hurdles, like you said, of convenience for security. Security, it will eventually become a trend. That's what has to happen. Things have to be attractive. They have to be sexy. And one day something, will happen, or someone will create the app or whatever it is, because maybe they'll make it convenient, like you've done with Signal or with some of these other apps, where it's so easy that it works and it becomes a trend to be secure. People that's the first question people will ask when they go to a website, or someone is promoting whatever their new social media thing or whatever it is. People will want to know, well, is that website I'll keep wanting to say
two-step authentication.
Two-step. Is your website two-step authentication? That's something people don't say. Oh, what's your website? Oh, it's and they just go to it. The language needs to get in there.
The trick on websites is if it has HTTPS, the S means they care.
Right. It stands for security, right? It's not leave the last S for savings, right?
So, Siad, what was your favorite app that came out in 2018, or that you became aware of in 2018, or is there one?
Shameless plug. Tidal. Just because of music. I use it a lot for finding new music for my own show, for my own podcast. I just found it really easy to find new music on Tidal, and I kind of not ashamed to say I was supporting Jay-Z's business venture with that, because I remember when he first bought Tidal, it used to be I think Swedish. It was a European-based music streaming, and it was at the bottom of the barrel compared to Apple Music and Pandora and Spotify, and he's figured out a way to turn it around, and I just kind of commend him. So I kind of do my little 2 cents of supporting him.
Is he the majority owner?
I don't know if he's the majority. He might be, just because he got in so early.
Okay.
But he may not be. I mean, he's part owner of the Nets.
Sometimes they put the name out there, and you're a tiny little piece of it, but you got a big name.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like 2%. It might be 35% or 40%. But yeah, for me, it was Tidal. I find a lot of the music that I like to listen to is on that app. So
is that free?
No, it's $9.99 a month.
Okay.
It might be free for like Lena was saying, it might be a premium. It might be
a freemium.
Yeah, but to me, it's worth $10 a month.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So, yeah.
Well, that's the trick. When people figure out how can I make it easier to sell something than it is to pirate something? That's when some of the media landscape has really shifted. Like Napster it's easier to pirate than it is to buy this, but with Netflix, it is easier to pay Netflix than it is to steal the movies.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, most of the country doesn't want to go through VPNs. They're not, hip on BitTorrents. The average person is not into, the low-level hacker life. People want that convenience. They don't want to have to even deal with that stuff. So, I mean, I'd much rather go on Netflix.com, put in my credit card, and just have at least the illusion of safe and secure. And, it's on the up and up. So, yeah, sure, I'll pay $9 a month, and maybe sacrifice something else. I mean, instead of going to the movies, which is ridiculous in price, or, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, people are willing to pay this, but then they may sacrifice something else. I don't have to buy music anymore, for $9.99 a month. That's less than when I grew up. CDs were $20 a piece. Now I have my entire, music collection. Well, not entire, but a lot of my music collection, on this cloud on Tidal. It's not physical. If Tidal goes away, my music goes away. There's a downside to that.
Can you download from that application?
You can actually. You can. That's part of, the payment. You can download some of the stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it you can. But yeah, it is a trade-off. I mean, I think people are reprioritizing their spending habits with things. I mean, like Amazon. I mean, people are, Amazon's putting a lot of small mom and pop businesses out of business because of the convenience of it. I mean, it gets addictive, especially the smaller price items. And again, going back to the algorithms, it suggests things that you buy, an ironing board, and you're like, oh wow, I need a tea kettle. Oh wow, I need, some new sheets, and you fall down this rabbit hole. But if you have some self-control, you get those things, and you're like, all right, I'm good, and you start planning and prioritizing going forward. It can be helpful, but that obviously is individualistic.
Lena, did
Speaking
you?
of apps, I really like Good Budget. It's a budgeting app that does an enveloping system. I like Good Budget.
What's it do? How's it work?
I track my spending with it, and my husband tracks spending with it, and it's just nice. It's software. You can have it as an app, and you can have it online, and it's a Good Budget app.
Mm-hmm. And it's called Go Budget.
Good.
Oh, Good Budget. Excuse me.
Good Budget.
Good
yeah.
Budget.
It's pretty good. I like it.
Cool.
I might have to get that,
Cool.
especially for next year.
Now, you mentioned something. I just wanted to, since it's the holidays and it's Christmas season, and you were talking about Amazon, did either of you guys do any online shopping this season?
Yes.
You say that like maybe a lot, Lena?
I don't like going to stores. What do you mean? Do you mean for holiday gifts?
Yeah. I'm just saying, the holiday season. There's a lot of shopping. Historically, we go to stores. I know this year I went to one store the entire season, and my wife just fell in love with online shopping this year. And I think she went to one store. She did all of her shopping online and was thrilled by it. Free shipping, drop it off right at the front door. And I was wondering if you younger folks are doing the same thing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with Lena. I mean, it's one of those things where you could keep your Amazon app and you could do your Christmas shopping throughout the year. It's even easier. Mm-hmm. I know, I have friends and family members that, they will do Christmas shopping all year round and maybe like keep the smaller gifts in like a closet or a bag somewhere. So when Christmas time comes around, they just go in the bag and they just wrap stuff or whatever. Mm-hmm. But who really does that, right? I mean, that's some really dedicated
I have
folks.
one in-law that I know does it. I don't know anybody else who does it.
Right. Well, Amazon allows you to kind of do that in a way if one is so inclined. But it also can play devil, kind of play both sides. You almost sometimes wait to the last minute. I know I kind of wait to the last minute. I almost forgot that everyone's ordering on Amazon and it's not going to come tomorrow.
Right.
So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you have to be mindful of that, but you really, only make that mistake once and one should never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the convenience of not having to deal with the lines and the fact that now those Black Friday deals and those Cyber Monday deals are now being applied to online purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now the whole, mob mentality of going to the store, that Friday after Thanksgiving,
mm-hmm.
It virtually, it should go away. I mean, only people that don't have, the internet or don't have a credit card or can't, whatever, they can't do that. But most people should stay away from camping out in front of stores on Friday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning for that,
mm-hmm.
That doll, that toy, that tech or whatever that they want. So I think online shopping, it's a blessing and a curse. I think it's great, but, it sucks for, the mom and pop.
Yeah, for the retail outlets that are going bye-bye.
Yeah.
Well,
my close networks actually, we don't buy that many gifts for each other because if any of us want something, we tend to get it for ourselves. So, like Santa gift exchange setups are much more common among my friends, and I think it's a change.
Interesting. How about your parents, Lena? I know they're pretty tech savvy. Do they shop online?
Yeah, my mom got an Alexa.
Right. I remember she has some fancy name for it. What'd she call it?
Her wiretap.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I actually got her a set of smart bulbs and installed those because there's an outlet that's in a really inconvenient spot, the switch to turn it on and off, so now she can tell her wiretap to turn the lights on and off.
Okay.
That's funny. That reminds me of there's a meme or a cartoon or a comic strip where, it has, someone in the 1960s saying, with a telephone saying, don't say that over the phone, they're going to be watching. And then there's one of today, and it's like, people are talking into the wiretap, telling them everything that they've never wanted, So it's just amazing, again, how society has changed. And, like you were saying earlier, almost no one cares that their information is being stolen. They say it as a reactionary kind of thing, but they don't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So oddly, I'm concerned about not being able to retain my data. That's what gets my heckles up, is the idea that I can, like with a streaming music service, I can pay for something month after month and carefully curate my playlists, and then it goes under and all of my things which aren't my thing,
Right.
are gone.
Are gone. Yeah. Yeah. My brother is the opposite of that. He's obsessively DVDs every conceivable movie. He must have 300-400 movies on DVD. And I say, why do you do that when everything is online? He said, well, the computer might not work, the online might go down, and the DVD is right here. It always works. And he's got a point.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I just a good friend of actually my co-host. She got me a record player for Christmas, and just having that physical record. It's no wonder that records are now kind of like back in style again. People are so enamored by the virtual and not having something physical to touch, especially when it's something so personal as music. You want to have a connection with it. So, the fact that folks, under 30, under 40 are getting back into records, and now records are now $20, $30, and sometimes $40 or more. It's just interesting how we as creatures, as humans, are evolving to we want the convenience of not having to carry around a boombox radio to a Walkman to tapes and records and 8-tracks to having discs, and then having MP3s, to then not even having MP3 to streaming, and now they're like, oh, I want a physical record from 40 years ago. It's so interesting that it's cycled right back.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. We just got a couple minutes left, but I know, Lena, you and I have talked about this. We did a show once, on digital preservation. Mm-hmm. And one of the big points that we realized was that just because it's digital doesn't mean it's going to last. I mean, you and I, we've got so many files at home that I can't read. They're on a zip drive. They're on some other format that I don't have a reader for anymore. And to Lena's point, you've got stuff that's in the cloud, and that cloud disappears. The company goes under. And, DVDs and CDs, I remember when CDs came out, the manufacturer said, indestructible, they'll last forever. I've got so many CDs that skip and don't play anymore, and I've got records that go back 50, 60 years that still play today without a hitch. Maybe a little scratchy, but they still play fine. And
gives a character.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, the old analog, old-fashioned media, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Could not agree more.
Okay. Well, Alina, you got any plans for the rest of the holidays? What are you doing for New Year's?
I don't know, but I got to go right now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lena. Thanks
Bye.
for hanging out with us. Lena Marvin. Okay, you've been listening to Community and Technology with Lena, Stu, and our special guest, Siad Reed, a.k.a. the Standby Gypsy. Stay tuned for news at the top of the hour.